I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. The time is 11:37, and this is limestorm coverage from the Carolina Weather Group, powered by the Carolina Weather Net. We're coming up on the air right now to tell you about a severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing damaging winds, and this is in upstate South Carolina. This thing is moving pretty quickly. Matter of fact, if we take a look at the latest bulletin from the National Weather Service, you can see this is moving to the east at 70 miles an hour. Again, issued here by the National Weather Service because of the threat of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. We'll talk about that just in a moment. But who in all is affected by this severe thunderstorm warning? The first warning associated with this line moving across the Carolinas tonight. This is going to be the counties of Lawrence, Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, and Pickens. And this was issued just a short time ago by the National Weather Service, who at 11:30 here tracking severe thunderstorms located along a line extending from Easley to 6 miles south of Clemson, moving east again at 70 miles an hour. So this includes places like Greenville, Spartanburg, Easley, Greer, which is actually where the National Weather Service is located, Taylors, Simpsonsville, and let me see. This is going to go now until what time? The severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued here will be continuing for the next little bit. And they, again, are already seeing some reports of damaging winds coming in. Matter of fact, in Easley, we had a MPing report from a member of the public telling us some sort of wind damage. This is a little vague, right? But trees uprooted or snapped. It seems like there may be some trees down or some branches down. Of course, heavy rains associated with this as well, too, as we'll be continuing to track this as a line of storms moves through the Carolinas. This is going to be until midnight. I was looking for the numbers, but it is spelled out here. This is going to be going until midnight, the top of the hour. And, again, if you know anybody trying to come along Interstate 85, it is right on in here. And this actual polygon stretches for about 75 miles from corner to corner. And so much of that, again, right now being encompassed by Interstate 85 itself. And the strongest winds are going to be coming right out of Greenville here, right down through the city of Piedmont and down towards Sandy Springs, where you see this curve here that is pushing off to the east at 70 miles an hour. So places like Williamston and West Pilzer and Simpsonville themselves are going to be in the line of this Fountain Inn, that is Young's in the next little bit. And if I actually clear that drawing, you can see we just got an update there from the radar, and we'll let the radar scope here kind of churn out a couple of the most recent radar scans so we can put this into motion. But this line of storms is moving very quickly, and with that inherently has a very strong winds. It has the ability to maybe be uprooting, as we saw some branches or small trees certainly blowing around some objects that could be in backyards. And so if you are not in this immediate vicinity and you're downstream of it, and you can maybe bring in the lawn chairs, make sure the umbrellas are closed. Obviously, it's not summertime, so people don't have as much stuff outside as they may have otherwise. But again, this is kind of just the first of what could be a few storms like this as we go on through the overnight hours. I'll show you that Futurecast here in just a few moments. But again, we're watching this right now, and folks coming along Interstates 85 and 185, Golden Grove right now getting a lot of rain, a lot of wind associated with this severe thunderstorm warning that goes until midnight, as we are dealing with a marginal threat. That's a tier 1 out of 5 chance of seeing severe weather as we go on through the overnight hours. And the primary threat associated with that will be damaging winds. And so I can actually switch over to a different graphics package here. And as I get that loaded up, I can show you what all we will be dealing with as we head on through the overnight hours. And seems like those graphics are misbehaving at this hour. So bear with me just a moment as I go ahead and get the National Weather Service website pulled up. We are very lucky to have those resources at our disposal here, funded by, of course, our federal government. So we'll just show you here from the Storm Prediction Center, their branch of the National Weather Service, that, of course, is in charge of putting out these storm convective outlooks And you can see much of the Carolinas as we go through 8 a.m. Friday morning in that dark green. And that is for the marginal risk that I was telling you about, that tier 1 out of 5. Again, the primary threat will be the chance of damaging winds, 60-mile-per-hour winds. It won't be widespread, but enough folks could see this that they've gone ahead and they've issued that marginal risk for the overnight hours. And again, I wouldn't be surprised, as we're already kind of starting to see here, some really gusty winds, heavy rains. Wouldn't be surprised we get some reports of downed branches, trees, could even bring down some power lines, some scattered power outages associated with this. And we were even getting reports along those lines of scattered power outages earlier tonight in places like the Triad over towards Greensboro, because even where I am in Charlotte, the winds are very gusty out ahead of the line. The line is not even here yet. And we can actually switch this over to show you Duke Energy, of course, not the only provider of electric, but one of the primary providers of electric here in the Carolinas. And they're already reporting, you can see we had a few scattered outages here across the upstate. Matter of fact, as we make our way down towards Pennington at this hour, a good portion of those areas, even a little bit of downtown Clemson right now, Duke Energy customers reporting some power outages. I'm trying to see where this, up here towards Mooresville. I see it here as we make our way along the I-77 corridor. And I have to take a look here. We're listening to information from the National Weather Service as they're continuing to track this storm, and they have just issued an update as they continue this severe thunderstorm warning. So let's bring you back over to radar, and I'll go ahead and read off some of that latest information to you as you're taking a look at the storm. There are actually two polygons here, and those are going to get redrawn drawn on your map here in the next few moments. But the National Weather Service continuing to track this thunderstorm that is not just capable of producing damaging winds, but it is producing damaging winds. And this will continue until midnight for East Central Greenville and East Central Spartanburg counties. So they've gone ahead and updated and dropped off some of those counties. So counties like Anderson and Central Pickens and Lawrence have fallen off from this warning. And you'll actually see them drop off here in the graphic in just a moment, as they are probably in dealing with some of those isolated now power outages caused by those gusty winds. But areas that are still going to be in this warning here for the next 15 minutes. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning because of the threat of damaging winds. Greenville, Spartanburg, Greer, Taylor, Simpsonville, Five Forks, Boiling Springs, and Duncan. And the National Weather Service, I will tell you, has included what they call a tornado possible tag. And that's just an indication to us that they are seeing some convective nature with the storm, a little rotation. And that's not too surprising, given, remember, we had that bow, we had that turn, that angle in the storm system before. So there are areas where that nature can actually allow the atmosphere to spin up ever so briefly. So that's why our chance of seeing a tornado overnight is not zero. It's not high by any means. Again, the primary threat associated with severe weather that we'll potentially be seeing in the Carolinas during the overnight hours is really in the form of damaging winds. And even the winds is about a 5% chance that you'll encounter one of these damaging wind gusts during the overnight hours. The tornado chance is less than 2%. But National Weather Service, because of the way this particular storm was going and moving so quickly off to the east, does have that tornado possible tag on it. If that is something that you, along with us, continue to look for, you can see it easily. We did have a report of some uprooted trees and power lines. And again, in Pennington, we don't actually have a storm report in, but we saw from the Duke Energy map that they are dealing with some power outages there. And matter of fact, if we were to bring this back, if I can get the radar data to come on back, I was hoping to maybe query some of the winds to see what those winds may have been like that were possibly the result of those power outages. You can see here 55, 60 mile per hour wind gusts just a short time ago. As we look back over the last 30 minutes or so, 65 miles per hour winds estimated by radar, I think, was the highest I saw there. So again, we're going to continue to keep an eye on this severe thunderstorm warning. We don't always come on the air for severe thunderstorm warnings. But as so many of you are obviously getting ready to go to bed, we wanted to let you know that it's yet again another night that you should keep that NOAA weather radio on standby on your bedside to be awoken in the middle of the night in the off chance that there is some sort of warning that requires action. Severe thunderstorm warnings mean that a storm is capable of producing 60-mile-per-hour winds or quarter-size hail. A tornado warning would mean that there is a tornado possible or imminent enough that the National Weather Service is warning for it. And of course, flash flood warnings means that there is rising water in places where water shouldn't be and isn't normally. And so those are the three types of alerts that kind of are always the top of our pecking order, if you will, as we monitor for the chances of severe weather. Again, it is a marginal risk night here in the Carolinas as this line of storms associated with a cold front pushes from west to east. It'll be along the I-77 corridor and into areas like where I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, as we look ahead to about the 3 o'clock hour. So the chance of seeing severe weather is not very high, but the chance of you being woken up in the middle of the night by some gusty winds, maybe a rumble of thunder, that's also a potential as well. So want to kind of give you that heads up as you may be winding down your night. Let's take a look here at one of the model runs, the high rapid refresh model, the HRR. And as we bring it to about present, you can see as we go through the overnight hours, the line begins to break up. There are still potentially some areas where we could see heavy rains, gusty winds as we go through the overnight hours. It may not necessarily be in these exact places, which we're just using this for broad demonstration to show that the line that has been together all day so well will break up during the overnight hours and will continue to push even through daybreak across portions of eastern Carolinas out towards the coast. And as we return towards daytime heating, when we get that sun back, we could see the line kind of reform a bit as it makes way along the coast. Those lines are really good for wind damage. The individual cells typically have more of a chance for being tornadic, but the benefit that we have is the hours that this system is moving through the Carolinas will make it a little bit more challenging for the system to kind of get going and produce any sort of uh, eh, impactful severe weather during the overnight hours, because it really feeds off that heat of the day that creates that instability in the atmosphere. But certainly if you've been outside, it's 67 degrees right now here in Charlotte. It's still very humid, and that is still thunderstorm fuel that is there in the atmosphere. And again, that will wane off as we go through the overnight hours. Enough will be left over that we're still looking at this chance of seeing some rumbles of thunder, some strong thunderstorms that maybe don't prompt the National Weather Service to issue a severe thunderstorm warning. Strong thunderstorm could have winds all the way up into 50 miles an hour before the National Weather Service considers it a severe storm at 60 miles an hour. And the 50 miles an hour is still certainly enough to blow things around your backyard and move things around or rattle your windows, whatever it may be, in the middle of the night. So the National Weather Service does have this severe thunderstorm warning that is up right now. It is the only warning in the Carolinas, is the first we've seen. We could see a few more of them as we head through the overnight hours. Again, I don't anticipate that they will be widespread and nonstop by any means. It's not that type of severe weather, but it's February, and although that's still a winter month, if you think back to just 2 years ago, tornadoes are possible. Just a year ago, even tornadoes are possible in February. Severe weather is possible in February. So the threat we'll be primarily watching for really is going to be about a 5% chance of seeing damaging winds during the overnight hours, a less than a 2% chance of seeing a tornado. So again, non-zero, but not terribly high. But look back here towards Birmingham, Alabama. These green outlines, these are flash flood warnings. So we're also seeing periods of very heavy, intense rain. They may not last a long time, but it's still going to bring lots of rain through. As you can see, the reds here on radar, as this cold front produces this line of storms, the squall line that's going to be moving through the Carolinas. And again, it's moving very, very quickly. 70 miles per hour was the latest number we saw as this storm continues to push off to the east. Matter of fact, and the latest update from the National Weather Service, this line of storms is now moving at 80 miles an hour. That is wow, well, even a wind gust here in Charlotte, I can hear it through my headphones. Made me turn and look to see what was happening. And we're continuing to get your impeng reports in of heavy rain and winds, gusty winds. And again, impeng is something you can use on your phone to not only appear on our map here at the Carolina Weather Group, but also we have your report relayed to the National Weather Service. So that's why we are a big fan of the ping reports. All right, pausing for a moment to take a look at some of your comments. Absolutely, the dew points out there. It is almost tropical outside, and it is very odd, especially for this hour of night. Kind of unusual as we still have snow fresh on our minds from January. Let's see. Burlington. We are looking at right now at 36-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So thank you very much for that storm report and for being up with us tonight. And here's a viewer, Mindy, watching on Facebook from Boiling Springs. Very windy indeed there, and that is a part of this storm system that will be rolling on through. So if you're somebody who gets anxious about storms, this is not a big event for the Carolinas, but it is one that as you head to bed, it never hurts. Matter of fact, I do this every night. I go to bed, my NOAA weather radio is always there, it's always plugged in, and it always has battery backups because if there is an unexpected warning in the middle of the night, I do want to be awoken for it. And tonight's just a good night to make sure that that weather radio is working. Maybe you have some apps on your phone, whatever it may be, because there is a chance that you could be woken up for a variety of warnings in the middle of the night. You're all familiar with tornado warnings, not really expecting a lot of those, but severe thunderstorm warnings for damaging winds, 60 miles per hour, flash flood warnings also possible. Here's what you can expect from us here at the Carolina Weather Group during the overnight hours. We will not necessarily be in our chairs all night long, again, because we're not expecting this to be a high and widespread event by any means, but there are ways that we will continue to publish updates of warnings as the National Weather Service issues them. There's two ways to get those from us, and I would advise you to use these as a secondary method. NOAA Weather Radio, nothing replaces that. But our Twitter feed, Carolina WX Group, does automatically tweet out any of those top tier warnings, the severe thunderstorm warning, flash flood warnings, and the tornado warnings anywhere in the Carolinas in real time as those are issued from the National Weather Service. We also have a nonstop YouTube stream called the Carolina Weather Net. It's free, no cable or satellite subscription required, and you can watch it any place that you watch YouTube, whether it's your smartphone or your smart TV. That has a real-time ticker on it that scrolls the warnings from the National Weather Service, current conditions, sky cams, radars. It also, of course, carries live updates like the one you may be watching right now on a platform other than YouTube. So if you're watching on our Carolina Weather Net this evening, thank you so much. We'll get you back over to the best of the Carolina Weather Group in just a moment. But that's another place where throughout the overnight hours, we will keep that on and you can continue to track the storms and maybe learn a little something from our podcast as well, too. But it will have real-time information from the National Weather Service. So here at 11:55, I'm James Brierton. We are coming up on the end of Thursday and the beginning of Friday. And we are watching this marginal risk of severe weather during the overnight hours. Again, the primary threat, I can't really stress this enough, the primary threat will be the chance of gusty winds. And even if you don't get a severe thunderstorm warning, you don't have a storm with 60-mile-per-hour winds, but you have a storm with 55-mile-per-hour winds, that could still be enough to blow things around your backyard. I took a little walk around my backyard as I took the dog out for the evening, just looking around to see if there's anything that could potentially blow over or blow away. And now that I'm thinking about it, I actually should go move some additional lawn chairs that I'm realizing I left out there. So that's what's happening right now. And this warning that the National Weather Service has up is set to expire here in the next 4 minutes. And I was also expecting one of those two boxes to disappear. I feel like, oh, you know what this is? Hang on. And one of those boxes was a special weather statement as opposed to the severe thunderstorm warning, but the yellow and the kind of pink tan there were kind of hard to read. So that makes sense that we have the severe thunderstorm warning right now that stretches from Mayo and Cowpens down along Interstate 85 right through Greer in the National Weather Service and through portions of Greenville. Clemson is clear of this particular storm. Matter of fact, the line of storms has already surpassed you. It's really just one line of storms. If we look back at other portions of this line, if I can get it to load, that would be fabulous. Okay. There it goes. It really is just that one line. There's not necessarily going to be multiple lines of this. So once it clears you, and it's going to be pushing to the east pretty quickly at about 80 miles an hour. Matter of fact, the timing into getting to the I-77 corridor is about 3 a.m. But I'm doing the math here, and if it's already past Greenville and it's going 80 miles an hour, I feel like it could be to my location here in Charlotte before 3 a.m. I'm going to stick around a couple more minutes with you just to see if this does, in fact, drop off at the top of the hour as we've been anticipating. And let me pop up the Duke power outages. I understand that Duke is not the only power provider in the Carolinas, but they are probably the largest. So we have about 3,000 people right now without power. Most of these are in Pennington, and you can see a little bit of power outage in Clemson as well too. And that's a result of the storm that came on through. We have a power outage here up in Mooresville along the I-77 corridor north of Charlotte. And let's see if this lists a cause or not. But even though the rain hasn't arrived here yet, it's still possible, like we've been talking about, that you got some gusty winds that came on through there that could have been the result of what caused that power outage to come on through. Let me pull up here and see what type of wind data we have available for us at this hour from places like Clemson, where they're currently seeing winds to 10 miles an hour to the west, gusting at 17 miles an hour. But if we take a look at maybe what they saw an hour ago, we'll have to look for some of those observations to come on in, because certainly there are some pretty strong winds associated with this line. Let's ask the National Weather Service what they're seeing here. Even at their own location at the Greer Airport, gust right now at 41 miles an hour at the Greenville Spartanburg GSP Airport. Sustained winds at 28 miles an hour out of the southwest. So we were talking about that heat and humidity, that thunderstorm fuel that we have right now. 65 degrees still at Greer at this hour, with winds gusting at 41 miles an hour. And the National Weather Service, again, with that severe thunderstorm warning for the storm, with observed 60-mile-per-hour gusty winds. We'll return you here to radar scope and show you we got a couple more MPing reports coming in, and those are reports from you at home telling us what you are seeing using that free MPing app. And you can see we're still getting a couple more indications here, not only of heavy rains, but of gusty winds as well too, coming on in as this moves on through. Before we leave you, we'll pull up our Futurecast HRRR high resolution rapid refresh model. And as we all prepare to head to bed here, a little preview of what you can anticipate as we go on through the overnight hours. You can see these storms will move from west to east. They will break apart and be less of a line. Still, certainly connect the dots, and you can see that as we look ahead here to about 3 a.m. in the Charlotte area as that line comes on through, but it's no longer one long line. And then we'll watch for that line to kind of continue as it pushes towards the east, even during the daybreak and the sun hours for eastern portions of the Carolinas tomorrow. The National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, telling us today they have 4 reports of tornadoes, 47 reports of wind damage across the country associated primarily with this system. Further to our west, places like Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi. We'll wait to see how many of those actually verify, but those are some of the initial reports coming on in. Thanks to Pam and Meredith, who are watching us on YouTube and on Facebook this evening. So happy you're checking in with us here, as I imagine you are getting ready to wind down your evening. It is now 12:01. The National Weather Service has allowed this severe thunderstorm warning to expire. And with that, we're going to wrap up this update from here at the Carolina Weather Group. Again, we want you primarily to stay safe during the overnight hours. It's not going to be a big widespread event, but you could hear that rumble of thunder during the overnight hours. Have a couple ways to get warnings. Chief among them, always going to be the National Weather Service NOAA Weather Radio, maybe an app on your phone. Our Twitter feed will have them, as will our scrolling Carolina WeatherNet, which is available any place you watch YouTube. From Charlotte, I'm James Brierton. Thanks for checking in with us here at the Carolina Weather Group, enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay weather aware. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Good night.